Good Thursday morning. It is October 14th. Welcome into the Morning Medical Update. We are live here inside the Dolph Simons Family Broadcast Studio. Breast cancer is the second most common cancer among women in the U.S., and it affects men too, as we know. During this pandemic, COVID brought on more worry and sadly fewer people getting screened. We're going to talk about that along with the latest trials and talk to one woman who turned to a trial as a last option, and it changed her life. But first, let's turn to Dr. Dana Hawkinson, Medical Director of Infection Prevention and Control. He's joining us with our numbers. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Yeah, hey, Hays has 9 active and 6 in that recovery period, so a total of 15. We here at the health system, 14 active patients with 6 in the ICU and 6 of those patients on the ventilator as well. So 34 in that recovery period, a total of 48, but again, 14 active infections, but unfortunately, those people that are severe, those people in the ICU, 6 of them, all 6 are on the ventilator.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Okay, so do we have any reporter questions on the line today? Not on the line, but I've got a good one from Donna over at Channel 9. So the question is the news the FDA will be discussing green lighting the Moderna and J&J vaccine boosters, is that encouraging to you, Dr. Hawkinson?
Yeah, we have seen what happened with Pfizer and the recommendations and the data behind that. We know that the people who got Moderna and Johnson & Johnson vaccines kind of felt left out, didn't have any information. I really suspect, and this is just crystal ball, I really suspect the indications are really going to be the same as for Pfizer. But we will wait and see what happens. But I think it's good news that they are evaluating that. They're also evaluating mixed dosing, so using one vaccine from one company and another vaccine from another company, things of that nature. Overall, I believe that these all look to be very safe and are very safe, so we just have to wait to see what the final recommendations are.
Okay, that's the next part of her question, is there's been a lot of back and forthing on whether or not it is safe to mix and match those booster shots. She's wondering, does this open the door for more people to get boosters faster and therefore more protection for the community in general? Thoughts on that?
Again, I think we have a glut of supply of vaccine here in the United States. The real problem is there are people who haven't even gotten one dose of a vaccine yet. I'm not really worried about the people who need to get the booster dosing. They at least have some protection, still very good protection against hospitalization, severe disease, and death with their original dosing. So I'm not really as concerned about those people getting the boosters. Now, certainly if you are in the higher age group where it's recommended, definitely need to get that. But overall, we still need, and what will give the best protection and the most protection for all of us, is those people who haven't gotten any doses of vaccine to get those doses.
All right, hang tight because we're going to get to some community questions. We'll have a lot for you, Dr. Hawkinson, here in just a moment. But as we have continued to report throughout this pandemic that people are putting off screenings due to COVID-19, and we have started to see those effects with thousands of cases expected to be diagnosed this year alone, it is simply vital to get caught up on yours if you missed them at all. According to the American Cancer Society, in Kansas, roughly 2,400 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer this year, with 370 expected to die from breast cancer. In Missouri, those numbers are even higher. Around 5,500 women are expected to get breast cancer, with more than 600 dying from the disease. But technology and trials are providing hope for breast cancer patients. Before we get to our guests, I want to introduce you to one of those guests. Her name is Vanessa Chatman. She was diagnosed with breast cancer not once, but twice in just a matter of a few years. She credits a clinical trial at the University of Kansas Cancer Center for giving her more years with those she loves. Here's Priyanka Sharma with her story.
I turned 55 in August. I did not think I was going to live to see 55. So that was a huge birthday celebration for me.
It was the gift Vanessa Chatman wanted most, more time with her family.
I have 2 children. I have a son and a daughter. My son has 4 children, so I have 4 grandchildren.
They got her through her first diagnosis in 2015 and her second 3 years later. It was metastatic triple-negative breast cancer.
This time around, it came back as incurable and stage 4. It spread outside of my breast, so it spread to other parts of my body. And it's stage 4. They can't do anything really about it.
But they offer some hope. Vanessa's oncologist, Dr. Priyanka Sharma, told her she qualified for a clinical trial at the University of Kansas Cancer Center.
She was always very optimistic about the clinical trial. So based upon that initial assessment, she felt like I was a great candidate.
Before coming to the Cancer Center, Vanessa was given about a year to live, but Dr. Sharma refused to put a timestamp on her, giving her hope to keep fighting. For nearly 2 years, Vanessa went through a combination of chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and radiation treatment. Then in December of last year, the news came in. She was completely cancer-free.
You really have to want to be healthy. It's a mindset. That's the main thing I tell people. You have to want it for yourself, and you have to, in your mind, what do you want your end result to be?
While going through her clinical trial, Chatman wrote to keep her mind off her illness. She recently completed her first novel, a romance, that she said could be published by the end of this year.
And joining us live right now is Vanessa herself. Vanessa, good morning. So good to see you. How are you?
Good morning. That made me teary-eyed.
Oh, good. Well, we don't like to make you cry this early in the morning, but we really loved hearing your story. We love that you were willing to share it with us. And I have to tell you, I'm waiting to read that romance novel.
One day soon. One day soon.
Okay. Hang tight for us just a moment. We're going to come back to you and talk more with you. But I also want to bring in Dr. Priyanka Sharma. She is a breast medical oncologist and researcher at the University of Kansas Cancer Center. And good morning, doctor. I just want to ask you, just tell us a little bit about Vanessa's case from a doctor's perspective.
Good morning. So Vanessa has a kind of breast cancer that's called triple negative breast cancer that is typically associated with an aggressive outcome. And as we saw in the story, it came back a few years after initial diagnosis and was advanced at the time that it recurred. Fortunately, her situation and case fitted a very nice clinical trial that we had available at KU, which I was leading, that included a combination of immunotherapy, chemotherapy, and targeted agent. And that combination worked very well for her. Cancer, it's been over 3 years now since the news of the recurrence and advanced metastatic spread came back. And that's the merit sometimes of looking at options beyond standard of care, including trials, especially for patients that have advanced incurable disease.
So we're an academic medical center. Trials are happening here. We need people to participate in those trials. What should patients be asking themselves? What do they need to know to find out if they're eligible to participate in one of these trials?
I think it starts with an open dialogue with your provider, your oncologists, surgeons, and radiation doctors about what trials might be available that fit their cancer and their particular journey in the cancer. And then evaluating the trial in terms of what treatment it offers and how it differs from what one would get if they didn't participate in a trial. And really, all of the research couldn't happen without active participation and endorsement of our patients, and we wouldn't have newer drugs and agents and modalities to offer to our patients if our patients and community isn't endorsing clinical trials. So we're fortunate to have a very rich portfolio of many exciting clinical trials available here at KU.
Which brings me to my next question. Our cancer center is an NCI designated multidisciplinary facility. Just help us break down what that means to patients here locally and in our regions when we have all of these experts working together to help bring the best care to cancer patients.
I mean, as you rightfully said, we have all of these experts working together to bring the best care to our patients, and I think that's the key. We're the only NCI designated cancer center in the region, and which means that we have the most cutting edge treatment and trials and research available for treatment of cancer, prevention, control of symptoms. So it's a wide spectrum. And it also means that being NCI designated cancer center, we house many of thought leaders and national experts in their relative fields, which elevates the level of care.
So on Tuesday, Dr. Sharma, we watched the 100th IORT procedure happen live here in the hospital. This technology allows kind of a one and done radiation treatment for those who find their cancer early. So I want to talk about just the importance of early screenings, early detection. It allows for more advanced treatments. It may allow for people to enter into trials. Talk to us a little bit about that as far as the importance of early detection.
I mean, of course, that's the key. Over the last couple of decades, there's been tremendous progress in improving survival from breast cancer, and early detection is one of the key factors for it. The earlier we detect a cancer, the much higher the chances we have of curing it with multimodality treatment. So I encourage all patients and women to start their screening at the time that is recommended by their providers, and stay consistent with getting their screening as recommended. I know with COVID, less emergent things like screening have been put on the back burner by many, rightfully so, because folks are concerned about being exposed to unnecessary risk if they don't feel the output is worthy enough. But I think it's very safe to come get your screening, and don't put it off. Get it done when it's due, and follow through on any results that you get from your provider.
Dr. Sharma, I want to turn now to Vanessa, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about just how you're doing today. Tell us a little, get us up to speed on that. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, guys.
That's
I'm
okay.
doing great. I still see Dr. Sharma routinely, and I have scans, to make sure that, we're not seeing signs of the cancer spreading again. But, my fatigue level's back. I'm just living and thriving, and just, enjoying life, enjoying my grandchildren. And, and like I said, you really have to have the mindset that you want to be healthy. And so I start my day off. I say, thank you for my healing. And I say that every day, all day is taped on my bathroom mirror, is taped on my bedroom mirror. And, I'm just living. I can't.
When you were presented with the opportunity to be a part of this clinical trial, what did you think? And what was that like?
Initially you're like, a trial, they want to make me a guinea pig, but I just thought about it, and, like I said, I wanted to live at least a little longer, so I just listened to what, she presented. And I decided, especially, when they say you're a good match, your cancer is a good match for this trial, I said, you know what, even if I don't make it, I can possibly help someone else by just doing a little bit of it, So that's when I was like, you know what, I'm all in.
Well, and Vanessa, I think we all hear you and feel you when you mentioned the guinea pig reference. I get that, but then you mentioned the idea that, wow, I get to be part of something that may advance treatments and research, and to be a part of that must be very rewarding and help you get through the cancer.
Yes, definitely. Because I feel like they're going to look at, because they collect a lot of blood work and stuff during the trial. I'm like, down the road, they are looking at my, I guess, my DNA or whatever, and that's my stuff could possibly help another lady live. That's huge.
And Vanessa, what are doctors telling you about? It came back again. Is it gone?
Well, with and I probably may want to ask Dr. Sharma this, but from what my understanding is, no, it's not gone. It's just not alive, basically. It's kind of like dormant. So that's why I have to do my see Dr. Sharma routinely, get my scans routinely, so that if they start seeing it become active again, they can get on it, really soon. Now, I don't know what the next line of treatment will be. That's not anything that I know, but I do know that it's not ever gone.
Well, thank you for explaining that in ways that I can understand for sure. I do want to bring in Dr. Sharma. So tell us, where does she stand as far as treatments, doctor, and what's next?
So, as Vanessa said, this is in remission. Even though it was advanced in stage 4, the treatment put the cancer in remission to the point that we could stop all the treatment, which is not that common for patients with stage 4 cancer, where one can stop all the treatment. And right now, we just watch to make sure that it doesn't come back. And if and when it does, there are many options available for treatment. One of the other key things is, Vanessa, because of the availability of the trial, was able to get on immunotherapy much before it was actually available and approved for her kind of breast cancer. And now it is routinely available. So if and when it does come back, that's some form of immunotherapy is definitely an option. But right now it's in remission, and there's no signs of active disease.
So, Dr. Sharma, we touched on it in her story that we saw at the beginning. So what makes her outcome unique? You said normally somebody at this stage with metastatic cancer, it's unusual to have to be able to stop treatment altogether. Can you just expand on that a bit?
So we're learning that the cancers are heterogeneous, and even though we define it to be a triple negative cancer in many women, it's a different cancer in every individual. It responds differently to different types of treatments. Certain cancers that are prone to being responsive to immunotherapy have inherent body's own immune system already trying to fight it. Respond better to certain types of treatments. And this is what, through research and trials, we will learn. As Vanessa pointed out, samples and specimens were collected from patients that participated in this trial and other trials. And then we go back to the laboratory to study those samples, study the tumor, the blood, the individual's DNA, to make an assessment why certain individual had such a robust response that was durable, that the cancer went in complete remission. And on the other hand, another cancer didn't have the kind of response that we would have liked. And that informs the next generation of trials, where we can be even a little bit more personalized, more specific, that this treatment will work for this kind of cancer much better than the other kind of cancer, even though we call them both breast cancer.
All right, ladies, I want to get to some community questions today. We've got some good ones coming in that I know you can answer or give us some insight. Sandra wants to know, does racial diversity matter in clinical trials for breast cancer? Or is cancer cancer? It doesn't matter. Or is there another question was, is there another race or background that you need more to participate in trials? Dr. Sharma?
Certainly, it's a very, very important factor. In the last few years, it's really come to the forefront that we want the trials to represent our general population. So all types of individuals, if they're represented in the trial, then the outcomes are more applicable to everybody. Certain cancers tend to inflict certain races and subgroups more. So for those cancers, it's even more important that the trials have adequate representation of those individuals, because as we just talked about, an individual person's genetic background, the tumor's genetic background, all of those impact response to treatment. And unless we have good representation in the trials, the new treatments that we come out with can't perhaps do justice to everybody that we want it to. So there's lots of efforts on many levels that are taking place to encourage and facilitate the racial diversity in clinical trials.
So Claire wants to know, can you participate in a clinical trial if your cancer is in remission? Or would there be any need to? Or she says, is that like poking the bear? Leave it alone.
So there are different types of trials. So there are trials to treat a cancer, and if a cancer is in remission, there probably wouldn't be a need to be part of a trial that treats a cancer. But then there are trials looking at survivorship issue, long-term side effects from the treatment that one might have received as part of their cancer care. Trials that are looking at lifestyle modifications. So there are many types of trials that are still available for patients who've had cancer that follow the journey of the individual beyond the active treatment of cancer.
Vanessa, I want to ask you, what kind of questions were you asking your team about entering into a trial? You must have had a list of questions you had, but what if somebody was considering entering a trial, what would you want them to consider? What kind of questions did you have?
Mainly the side effects, because you want to know, what is this going to do to me, and how am I going to feel? Luckily, I didn't have that many horrible side effects. There was the one initial medication, and I may be saying it wrong, but I think it was cisplatin. Is that correct, Dr. Sharma? I was very ill on that medication, and that was when I initially started the trial. So, the medications kind of changed throughout the trial, but that was an early one. And I was really sick, fatigue, the vomiting, all of those horrible things that you hear. So I would, ask the questions about the side effects and how it's going to affect your body. That would be the main thing.
Fair question. Yes, I would imagine. Sonia has a question. Dr. Sharma, do we pay people to participate in trials? And how are they funded? That was another question from somebody.
So the trials are funded through many mechanisms. Of course, federal funds, the NCI and branches of NCI fund many trials. Pharma or industry funds trials, and there are many other organizations like the Komen, the Hope Foundation, and many others that invest resources into funding clinical research and trials. And of course, that's the key. Without adequate funding, a lot of this research couldn't happen. In terms of the payment for the trials, typically there's not a payment per se for participation. There might be some reimbursement for travel that is incurred as part of participating in the study. If it requires frequent travel, there might be some reimbursement for time spent if it was labor intensive to do many tests that a person wouldn't have to do if they weren't part of the study, that spend 7-8 hours at the hospital to do certain tests.
So Gretchen wants to know, are there different trials for different stages? So are there early stage trials that people can participate, late stage?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So there are trials that address different stages of cancers and different types of cancers, depending on what's the most critical need for that stage of cancer. For early stage, they might be looking at the improving on current available treatment by giving certain treatment more frequently on a different order. For later advanced stage, there are often newer drugs that are yet not on the market that are being studied to see if they would outperform the currently available treatments. And as I mentioned, our trials in cancer now go through the whole spectrum. There are trials even for early detection and prevention. There are trials that address needs of patients that are at high risk for certain cancers. They might not have a cancer yet, but because of family history, genetics, or other reasons, it is deemed that they're at higher risk for development of future cancer. And then there are trials that address the survivorship issues. The active cancer treatment is done, but what can we do to improve the quality of life, certain remaining side effects, lifestyle, weight, all of those things. So it's a full spectrum.
Rosemary wants to know, can I participate in a clinical trial if I'm already in the middle of treatments?
And it's kind of individualized. There are different types of things. If you're in the middle of the treatment, it's unlikely that another treatment trial will fit at that particular condition. But some of the other studies that are looking at toxicities and side effects, or studies that are simply collecting information, from a large number of individuals that are undergoing standard treatment, blood, tumor tissue, treatment information, again, to understand the cancer treatment outcomes better, might still be available. Often these studies are called registries, where you participate in the study, you're not receiving any active treatment. The treatment is what your provider, you and your doctor have decided upon, but you're contributing to the research by providing your cancer treatment information that can be put in with many other women that are part of the registry. And we have one such registry here available at KU. It's called a Triple Negative Breast Cancer Project Registry that's been ongoing for 7 or 8 years now, with over 1,000 women that are part of it.
Which it brings me to my next question from Nancy. She says, how do I find out if I'm eligible for a clinical trial? Is there a website that you recommend for any clinical trial? Where would they go? There's a central website called clinicaltrials.gov that houses all active trials here in the United States, and you can do a keyword search by your cancer type or certain specifics of your cancer, and it'll show up a list of all trials that are available, where they're open, and of course all institutions, including us, we have all of that information available on our website in a very easy to look up fashion, by your disease type, by the treatment type. And once you get the title of the study and brief information, it will provide a contact information of who you can contact to get more information about the study, to look at your specific case, about potential eligibility. And of course, talk to your doctors, your oncologists, your surgeons, or your radiation oncologists. And there's that information there on the screen, or that website. Thanks, guys, for pulling that up. Vanessa, yes. I'm going to get to final thoughts here in just a moment, but I just want to find out, if people missed it off the top, how did this trial impact your life? How did those results impact your life?
Oh, I always say Dr. Sharma and her team. Want to shout out Jamie and Lisa and Julie. They saved my life. I really believe that. When the cancer was re-diagnosed, I'm like, okay, I'm out of here, So, meeting them and, her telling me about the trial and, going through all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly of it, because it's not easy. I just say, I just love them to death. They saved my life. And Dr. Sharma, she's very optimistic. She doesn't say, oh, you have this timeline of this. She's like, hey, this is what we're doing. And we're going to keep doing this until something else, until we have to do something else. So I'm very grateful that her team crossed my path.
Well, we have a comment from June, and it's for you, Vanessa. Thank you for bravely sharing your story. You are positively inspiring. So, and it takes people sharing their personal stories with us here and telling us about their treatment and going deep with us, so that you can share your information with other people, and we can save more lives and add more years to people. So we appreciate that. So, Dr. Hawkinson, I didn't mean to leave you out all day, but I've got a question for you. Are you ready? So Larry wants to know, what do you think of the report on the internet claiming that the flu vaccine may provide some protection against COVID-19? This is citing a University of Miami Miller School of Medicine report. What are your thoughts? What have you heard of that?
Yeah, I just saw the headline. I haven't seen the article yet. We know that even early on in the pandemic, there were other studies looking at other vaccines hoping to protect against COVID. I'm not sure the mechanism. I'd certainly want to read the study. We know influenza vaccine in general helps people during the normal respiratory viral season, that is pre-pandemic, from being sick and out of work, and helping with severity of other diseases, other respiratory infections as well. So I'd like to see that. I'd really like to see what their conclusions are, what their data says. But overall, this by no means should be any replacement for the COVID-19 vaccine. So it's a good headline. I'm still going to be looking for the study, but I think the main thing is that this will not be a replacement for the COVID-19 vaccinations.
All right, you heard it here. Thanks for saying that. Okay, so final thoughts today from our guest. Vanessa, I'm going to start with you again. Thank you for sharing your story, but just what's your message maybe to other women who are facing this battle right now, and what kind of words of encouragement can you share?
I just, like I said before, it really is, what do you want? What do you want your outcome to be? And what I want it to be healthy. I want it to be healed. And I'm not saying that I'm, like I said, it's still in my body, but, I always think healing thoughts. And so it really is you. It's really in you. What do you want? I don't dwell on the illness itself. I always speak health and healing into my life. And that's what I think that's more important than anything else.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Go enjoy your time with your grandbabies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sharma, final thoughts from you.
So final thoughts from me is I would encourage all patients to be active participants in their care, ask questions, do your research. And as Vanessa pointed out, what do you want? What is the outcome that you're looking for at the end of this treatment? And again, be an active participant in the care and the decision making for the cancer.
Great advice, Dr. Hawkinson. Your final thoughts today?
Yeah, definitely get screened and come see our great medical teams and oncology teams here at the University of Kansas Health Center and University of Kansas Cancer Center. But also, we know that there's going to be a lot of news coming up soon about Moderna and Johnson & Johnson booster dosing. So we'll be ready to report on that when it's available. And the other thing is, again, we know that flu shots are available now. Never waste a time to vaccinate. You can get both influenza vaccine and COVID vaccine at the same time. And despite that headline, still there's no replacement for the COVID-19 vaccine with other vaccines. Get all the vaccines you need to help keep yourself protected, and mostly stay well and stay out of the hospital.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Tomorrow, it is Follow-Up Friday. We're going to get to some of those questions that we could not get to this week. Plus, we wrap up Emergency Nurses Week and shine the light on these rock star frontline workers. Hey, and don't forget, you can catch our show anytime on Facebook and on YouTube. So have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.
Nice job. Thank you so much.